Well, pitchers, catchers,
Everybody.
all the players have reported.
Report.
Even John Barry has reported for work today.
Get to camp. Get to camp. Get the snow off the ground in Maryville, Arizona. And let's play ball. Let's play two. Ernie passed away, and let's play two in his honor.
It's almost baseball season. We're going to touch on the start of the Brewers campaign down there in Arizona, and we'll talk about a little boys basketball action. The state tournament, or the WIA tournament, starts next week, and then we got back points going on over here?
Near fall, 3 near fall.
All right.
State tournament this weekend. No, it's going to be fun because we've got a lot of area wrestlers that pretty good chance to bring home a medal, and including a couple of them that good chance to be a state champion.
All that and more coming up on this episode of Xtra Points. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Xtra Points. Closing out February here. This is Sports
Good.
Reporter.
Get that in the rearview mirror.
It's been too cold.
Oh, it's awful.
John Barry, sports reporter for the Gazette here with, I'm the editor, I'm Airk Schmaltz.
You are the editor. That's okay.
It depends on who mails things.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes I am the sports editor, but our paychecks reflect differently.
We're all going to earn our money this week.
Yes,
because,
we are.
It's been a busy 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We got state tournament wrestling. We got girls tournament kicking off for hoops. Boys basketball season coming to a close. Gymnastics at sectionals.
Hockey.
Hockey still going on. That's kind of crazy, but we'll help get you through it. We're going to start. Last week we did a little lottery with the girls side of things, but there wasn't no big Powerball jackpot this week, so it doesn't really feed quite into that system.
No, we don't really have no offense to the boys' teams in the area, but I just don't feel like we've got a team that's a powerhouse team like we have with the girls. Girls, we rattled off 4 teams that we thought were capable of making a nice postseason run, and when you look up and down at the 3 divisions, I'm not sure we've got a team that's might not even make it into the sectionals.
I think we could get. We'll get one into sectionals because
they got to play each other.
The Rock teams will fight into each other. Why don't we start here in Janesville?
Okay.
They're the ones that'll play first Tuesday night. I guess we'll have quite a few teams playing Tuesday. But in the Division I side, both Craig and Parker hosting regional quarterfinal games. It'll be Craig hosting Watertown, Parker hosting Kenosha-Tremper at 7 o'clock on March 3rd. Obviously, nice to get some home games. You got to start by winning the first one and see what happens. Yeah,
I mean, it's the old cliche. Everybody's 0-0, and the 2 Janesville teams get home games. Parker going against a Tremper team that Badger beat pretty handily on Monday night. So you got to think the Vikings can get through there. But then comes Madison Memorial. They played them twice and got handed their lunch both times. And
everybody pretty much has by Memorial.
Lately by Memorial, the way they played.
Lost in 2015.
And talking to a couple of the Parker players at the girls' game the other day, they both said that Memorial is by far the best team they've seen this year. And they weren't sure about that earlier in the year, but they said the second time around, really impressed. The Cougars get a Watertown team they should be able to beat, and Craig coming off a nice win over Madison West. And the Cougars, we know they're capable of doing. We know they're capable of scoring, and they've got a good mix of kids on the team. But again, they're with Muskego in round 2, and Muskego's the 4th or 5th ranked team in the state. So let's take care of business first on Tuesday night, and you worry about Friday night once you get there.
To me, it's kind of like, if it plays to 1, both teams, if they win, are going to have to go up against somebody pretty powerful. But I think at least if you're going against a Muskego, that's a team that you haven't seen. They haven't seen you. Obviously, there's film out there, but not a team that you've seen twice already against each other.
Right.
You don't have those predetermined notions going in. So, if anything, maybe that leads to some sort of.
And for Craig's sake, that's especially true because, let's face it, they're capable of being a pretty good shooting team. And if they can make threes early, maybe that takes Muskego out of their comfort zone. Who knows? I mean, Craig's going to have to rebound, and they're going to have to make shots. But like you said, that unfamiliarity of not playing a team, sometimes it does work in your advantage.
Let's take a look at Division III here. That's the one with almost all of the Rock Valley teams in it. And then they have to go up against each other. That top pod of Division III, that's Turner, the top seed, Evansville, the number 2 seed. I mean, you would think a potential collision course between two real top scorers of the league, and Turner's Alec Fruin and Brennan Banks, the sophomore from Evansville.
And I think Rakowski, the center for Evansville, maybe the wild card there, a kid that when he's on the court, the 2 times I saw him, he got in foul trouble. But when he's on the court, he's a difference maker. He's tall, he can rebound, he's pretty physical, and he's got a nice touch around the rim. And against Turner, that might be the one area they're lacking a little bit, is rebounding and some size up front. So I think Evansville, probably of all the Rock teams that I saw, when they're on the same page and they're playing well, probably the best team I saw.
Turner does, I would say Rutkowski is good consistently for Clinton. On Turner's team, they have guys that fill in that number 2 spot behind Frew, and it's just somebody different every night instead of that one steady presence. So
and they're both young. Both young. They're both teams a year or 2 from now we could be talking about as somebody that could make the trip to the Kohl Center.
And I think if there's a wild card in there too, for that reason, playing against a bunch of young teams, is if that Clinton team,
which is
dominated by a senior class,
I would agree.
At a team that could come together at tournament time and maybe surprise some people.
I would agree. Yep.
Any others that stand out as just a wild card that could
I just think there's a lot of parity. I think when you look at all the basketball teams in our area, Lake Geneva Badger.
That's the one that comes to mind for me.
The Badgers,
the Badgers
can shoot.
The Badgers could be like the best number 9 seed
any division
in state. Obviously, most of these other sectionals weren't broken down to where there were 9 teams in them.
He's been there. He's tournament tested. He's been there. He knows what it takes. And the last time Badger went to state, Forrest was a coach, and you just never know. Although I just don't think that they don't match up well with Memorial or Badger or Muskego. But you don't know. I mean, they get hot from the outside, and again, Jake
Burhorst, Lincoln Wiesman can put up 30
points.
Any
they
night.
Can, and that's a case where you hope maybe it turns into a track meet, and you're 3s, and they can't match it with their 2s.
I don't know. I think they got a little hosed with that number 9 seed.
I would agree. That's all based on the Big 8 conference, dominating the seeding meeting, and that's what they wanted, and that's why they're the only sectional state that voted 1 through 19 instead of breaking it down into 2 separate, parts of the sectional.
So they got to go to Verona in their first game. I think they can get by that, and then they would have probably a Muskego.
Yep, and Verona's played well the last half of the season. Al Buss has got those kids playing good basketball, but Badger again, it's that unfamiliarity, and you hope your 3-pointers are on and that you can turn it into a track meet.
Sounds good. That'll all get rolling next Tuesday night. The girls obviously starting this week, and we'll catch you up with what's going on for sectionals next week's show. But first, we got to get to some wrestling.
Ready wrestle. Let's get to the state tournament. And again, some kids in the area. The 3 that come to mind
brackets
are Eric Furseth, 113 pounds at Janesville Craig, Division I. Nolan Shea, 120 pounds at Milton. They're both undefeated. And then Logan Maurer at 285 pounds in Division II. He's undefeated. Shea probably the most well-known because he's a former state champion. He won 106 pounds 2 years ago. So
probably, I would say of the 3, maybe the toughest weight class.
But he's got the toughest bracket, yeah. I think when you look at it...
120, that is, in Division I.
Furseth, again, now, I don't understand the Wisconsin Wrestling Online. He dropped down to number 3 this week.
Yeah.
Why? What does the kid need to do to either stay at number 2 or 1 or move up? I mean...
He hasn't done anything wrong, and he's beaten...
He hasn't had a close match since Christmas. And
maybe that's why. Maybe they think
one of the guys ahead of him, he beat. So, again, I'm not sure where the rankings, but I guess that's here nor there. I mean, you got to beat who's in front of you, and that'll start on Thursday.
I mean, it could fuel him a little bit.
It could. I don't think Airk needs any fueling. I think he's pretty well good to go as it is. But, when I looked at those this would have been Tuesday afternoon, he dropped to number 3, and I was stunned. I'm like, who's voting? Who's doing this?
Well, it's kind of a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
To me, it lines up to have him go against West Dallas Central's Tyus White in the final again if things play out like you would expect them to.
He beat him 4-2 in a dual meet earlier in the season, and White's dropped down a weight class from 120 to 113. But still, Furseth has been, he's been barely touched all year. I mean, you talked about it in the story you wrote about him, some of his goals, and to realistically not give up, what's he given up, maybe 4 or 5 points all year? That's crazy. I think the one guy to keep an eye on when I looked at everything was Bowen Wildman, 182-pounder at Milton. He's got 2 losses. Those came in an elite tournament down in Illinois. Hasn't lost anybody in the state and really has manhandled everybody he's wrestled all year. His weight class really sets up well for him, and I think the one kid, if I was going to say, other than the undefeated kids, the kid with the best chance would be Bowen Wildman for Milton at 182 in Division I.
just to bring some records into it, his Furseth was 41-0, Shea is 37-0, and Maurer is 46-0, Division II, 285.
Yeah, and again, you and I talked about it. How many of those are forfeits? I mean, Furseth, it's not a knock against him because people know they're going to wrestle him. They forfeit. So he's probably actually has maybe 25 wins. He's had his arm raised in a forfeit probably 15, 16 times. But still, the matches that he has wrestled, he's dominated.
Same with Maurer. There weren't a ton of depth around here at 285 until these late tournaments in the season, and he's handled his business.
And I don't think he's had many matches go past the first period. And, and let's face it, you get up at state, it's a different story, and you're probably going to be tested for 6 minutes.
It'd be an interesting one to watch because we've seen him at state the last 2 years. When he's been almost in this situation, you would have given him a chance as a sophomore or as junior to win a state championship. It hasn't quite gotten it done. Then he goes to track and field championships where he wasn't a favorite to win the discus or the
and he's the first one to tell you last year he's disappointed himself. He felt like he should have won the 285 last year. If you look at his bracket, he's got an interesting second-round matchup with a kid from, I believe it's Wisconsin Lutheran.
Yeah,
that's
47-1,
who must have lost at the sectional meet, so that would have been his first loss of the year. So, he's going to get tested in his first match if that's indeed who the kid that he wrestles. But, Logan's been on a mission all year, and I would look for him to come out of there with a state title.
Some others, Division I, Elkhorn, seven
really
wrestlers
impressive.
in these
and
brackets.
Ken Reynolds what a great job Ken Reynolds has done with that program. I mean, they took a year off or two the last couple, but boy, they're back right at the top again. He's got some outstanding wrestlers. I don't know if he's got any elite wrestlers that are good enough to win a state title, but he's certainly got some kids that are going to find the podium in the top 6.
That's probably the thing that stands out most in Division I. Division II, Jordan Maurer, we saw him get to the final last year.
Yep, exactly.
Evansville got 6 through, I think.
And keep an eye on Kismel. I'm telling you, the kid's going to be a state champ.
Well, that 132 bracket is pretty
loaded.
stacked.
It's loaded. But I'm telling you, Nolan Kismel, by the time he's a senior, will win a state title.
Maurer at 138 would be an interesting semifinal matchup with Andy Stray from East Troy.
They
had a real close battle the first time they met.
Yep.
That was right when Maurer had kind of come back from injury. So I would like to see that rematch. It would be probably a really good battle.
We've got, like I say, we're well represented.
More than 30 guys there. I think 32.
That's great. And I just read the preview there. I believe there's 33 wrestlers in the 3 divisions that are undefeated. So, a lot of kids, whether they've been tested or not, they're going to be tested starting Thursday.
Three of the 33 from our
area.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. That'll start
Thursday afternoon. You got to win 2 matches on Thursday to get in Division I. You got to win 2 matches on Thursday to get into the semifinals on Friday night. And Divisions 2 and 3, the good kids that have a bye will wrestle Thursday night with a chance to get into the semifinals on Friday as well.
So then the finals, obviously, Saturday night, 6 o'clock at the Kohl
Center. Which is as good of an event as you'll find in Wisconsin sports. When the Kohl Center, when those lights go down and those kids take the mat with
March of Champions,
with their hoods on and everything else, it's pretty cool. It really is. It probably doesn't mirror Iowa or something like that, but for this state, wrestling's come a long way.
Yeah. Should be a fun weekend. Now, out in Arizona,
oh man, we'd love to be there.
Our man Tom Miller's about to head out there.
He is.
Check out some of the spring training for fun, just for relaxation purposes. And I'm pretty jealous. But,
I'm very jealous. Yeah, I may have to fit in a suitcase and go along.
Maybe just some in general thoughts of what you're looking for. Obviously, you don't take a ton out of spring training, but there's going to be storylines. Well,
I think more than anything is their depth. The rotation. The rotation's set right now with Peralta and Lohse and Garza and Fiers and Nelson. But then after that, they don't have much. So if one of those guys goes down, who's going to be there to pick up the innings? Tyler Thornburg's coming off an injury. The bullpen's a little shaky. I still expect him to sign K-Rod again. He had a good year last year, 44 saves. You can't knock that. But, Henderson's coming back from an arm injury. And then I think first base, Adam Lynn, a guy that they brought in, a left-handed hitter who should provide some pop in the middle of that order, but, can't hit lefties. So does LaCroix go to first when they face a lefty? And how's LaCroix's health? He's coming off a hamstring injury. He's not going to take part in much of spring training, but he said he'd be ready for opening day. So I think with the Brewers more than anything, how does Segura bounce back from a down year after a great rookie year? Braun, certainly. How is he going to bounce back? Is the thumb healed?
Right.
Are the juice problems behind him? I mean, is he ready to just play baseball and not worry about everything else? And, you know, I think it's depth more than anything. Ramirez is getting up there in years. He's 37, 38. So I think more than anything, it's staying healthy, coming out of spring training healthy, and finding depth at a couple of positions.
Pretty much outside of Carlos Gomez and Chris Davis, I think you just pretty much said everyone.
I didn't mention Scooter.
That's a lot of questions.
I didn't mention Scooter.
Yeah, that's true.
And Scooter, again, Scooter's got to prove he can hit left-handed pitching. He didn't last year. And with Ricky Weeks gone, it's certainly not a position that Renicky wants to platoon. So Scooter's going to have to prove to the fans and certainly his manager and that he can hit left-handed pitching, and he's going to get every opportunity to do that.
Seems like a lot of questions, though, for me to want answered.
Right.
From a team that collapsed at the end of last year, didn't really add a ton in the offseason when the division around them got better.
Yeah, much better.
I don't know.
I would agree.
As spring training starts, I'm not quite as excited as
I'm not either. I would say I'm leaning more towards pessimistic than optimistic just because of what happened at the end of last year and the parts that are coming back and you know, what are you going to get from your 3 and 4 hitters? That's Braun and Ramirez. I mean, if those two don't produce, it doesn't matter how good your pitching is or anything else, because if you can't score runs in that, you know, in their division, it's going to hurt them.
Do you go in? I mean, do you even give any cautious optimism? Hope? Is there hope? Or
well, there's hope if you look at the team through the end of August last year. I mean, the same guys are coming back minus Gallardo, but you throw in Nelson. First base, which was a sour position the last 2 years, you bring in Adam Lind, who's a career 300 hitter and should provide some good pop in the middle of that order. But is it the team that we saw?
Not the first baseman that you'll see around the league.
Is it the team we saw in September? I mean, What team are we going to see? And hopefully, you know, knock on wood, it's the team we saw the early part of the year. But they're in a tough division. I mean, Pittsburgh's good. We know St. Louis is good. As much as it pains me, the Cubs are going to be decent. You know, the Reds still with some good quality everyday players. So I mean, the Brewers, they're gonna have to earn whatever happens to them this year, and it's gonna start early. They've got to get off to a good start.
And some of these pitchers you mentioned, Fiers and Nelson for sure. I think you want to see those guys find it right away.
Exactly, and I think Peralta
can't be a growing process.
No, and Peralta's got a chance to be a stud ace. I mean, if he can fix a couple of mechanical things, he's got a chance to be a stud because he's big and he's strong and he throws hard, and when his slider's on, he is tough to hit.
We'll see how those questions play out as the season approaches. And
play ball. Can we start tomorrow? Can we get rid of this stuff and start playing?
Maybe a little spring training.
Well, I know. This is ridiculous.
Until then, stick with us for the weekend as we try to get you through all the brackets, and follow us on Twitter. And, we'll be all over the place, probably tweeting like fiends. But
yes.
Should be a fun weekend. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next week.
Take care, everybody. Go Bucky.